Welcome to the Cash Flow Couple Podcast, where we go behind the scenes in our short-term rental business and reveal tips, tricks, secrets, successes, and failures. Whether you have 0 units or 100 units, this podcast is for you. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Wynde Williams, along with my husband, John Williams. Together, we operate Queen City Suites, a short-term rental business here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Action. Welcome back to the podcast. We are live once again here in the beautiful city of Charlotte, North Carolina.
And I'm getting pumped because January's almost over.
Woohoo!
It's our worst month. I hate January.
It really sucks.
Although we did get some long reservations in January at a couple places, and we just got another long one for 10 days to finish out the month.
Yes, so exciting.
So that's pretty cool.
Yep. So February is going to be a little bit better. And then March is going to be a little bit better than February.
Yeah, that's basically the way the market here works. It's January drops off, and then it gradually picks up, and summer's good. And then that September area is... But then it picks right back up because of the holidays.
Yes.
So we finish the year strong. We start the year not as strong.
Well, we knew that going in.
But we know that going in.
Yes.
So it's this is the point of this podcast, but it's really important to know your market like that. So
it really
you know
is.
what's coming, you know?
Yeah, that's a little nugget for you. So this podcast, we have some very cool stuff. So we're going to be talking about operating your short-term rental business in this podcast, specifically automating messaging, using automated pricing software, monitoring security cameras as guests check in, and changing door codes in between guests. I think we can get through those 4 things in 30 minutes, don't you?
Okay, yeah. We might have a bonus at the end if we can get through those.
Yes, if we can get through those, we'll have a super secret special bonus.
Right, because we can't cover everything operating your business in one podcast,
No.
Which I guess is why we do multiple ones.
Well, which is also why we have the Facebook community as well.
We should mention that, right? So we mentioned that in our special announcement podcast last time, but for sure, go for it.
So if you really want some very hands-on, specific information on how to operate a short-term rental business, we have created a Facebook community where we help people start and grow their own short-term rental business, just like we do. And we talk about everything. I mean, we show you everything that we do in our business, all of our systems, all of our processes. We pull back the curtain on our business, and we actually guide you through it step by step so that you can start and grow your own Airbnb short-term rental empire.
Yeah, and we should mention, like we did in the last one, that you said it's a Facebook group, but it's not. It's not a Facebook group. There is a Facebook group component to it, and that's where a lot of the interaction goes on to. But we've also added actual course material as well, some content, so you'll get that dripped every week. So when you join, you'll get the first week, and then second week you'll get another week of content, and so on and so on. So you will have some back end instruction as well. But then you're right, there's a Facebook community where then you can interact and ask questions. And we're going to do live calls in there. I've got one scheduled for this week. I'm going to do on actually the messaging. So we're going to talk about that a little bit in the podcast, but I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you exactly how I have my stuff set up. And because that's a lot of, you hear this, well, you should use automated messaging, for example. But then it's like, how?
Right.
How do I set it up? So I'm going to do a training on that this week. And I think that should be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really valuable information. And you know what? It's free. It's free for the first 30 days. So it's...
Yeah, so there's a subscription ongoing, but the first month, come in, try it for 30 days, get some information. If you want to hang around.
Yeah.
But for sure, there's no big paywall. There's no, upfront cost. Just come in, join us, hang out for a month if that's all you want to do.
Right.
But I think we think you'll want to stay after you see what we're doing in there. So
Good
come
stuff.
join us. So
Yes.
it's at thecashflowcouple.com if you want to check that out.
thecashflowcouple.com. So let's get right into automating messaging. So that is one thing that takes up a lot of time. When we first got started, I was the one doing all the messaging. We didn't have anything automated. And
you mean talking to guests?
That's right. So when we talk about messaging, it's messaging guests through whatever platform they booked on. So if they booked on Airbnb, Airbnb has a messaging platform. If they booked on HomeAway or Vrbo, the HomeAway Vrbo has a messaging platform.
Yes.
So,
and sometimes that means email, and sometimes that means in the app or whatever.
Or whatever.
But generally, we did it through the app or either online. You can do it online as well.
Yeah. But I remember doing it myself, and quite frankly, it is time consuming. Even with just when we had the basement, people would, well, first of all, they get the welcome message. You say welcome.
Well, even before that, so they can inquire, right?
Right.
Without
That's
even
true.
booking.
They ask questions.
They'll just inquire about it and ask.
They want to know how far away the unit is from wherever they're going, or something specific about the unit, like is there a kitchen or.
My favorite question is, are these dates available?
Right.
I'm like, well, if you can book them, they're available. And if you can't, they're not. But I find that kind of a humorous question. And so you kind of have to answer back and not be
dick about
sarcastic. Yeah.
John.
So, yeah. But yeah, so even then, there's inquiries, even if they haven't booked, right? At least on Airbnb platform.
Even before they book, they can ask questions. So you're spending time doing that. And then once they do book, they need to get information about the property, right? Like check-in instructions, the address to the property, where to park, all of that information they need to get, right? The checkout instructions, right? So,
well, that was check-in, yeah.
The check-in instructions.
And you have checkout instructions too, right?
And then you have checkout instructs.
And then we send a first morning message. So the first morning they're there, we send a message saying, hey, is everything okay? Is anything we can help you with? Just a courtesy thing. And then as we had to check out, as we mentioned, and then 3 days after they leave, we send them another message if they haven't left us a review, right? Because reviews are part of our business. We want to encourage reviews. So assuming they weren't a bad guest or we're not anticipating a bad review, we'll send them a reminder and say, hey, you hadn't left us a review. Would you mind leaving one, type thing?
That's interesting. So let's talk a little bit about that. So what happens tell people what happens if you suspect that guests are going to leave you a bad review?
Well, it depends on the platform, but people are most familiar with Airbnb. So it's going to go by whatever their rules are. But typically on Airbnb, you have 14 days to review each other, and you can't see the other person's review until you've left one. So it means you can't see their review. The idea is they don't want somebody leaving a review and you reading it and saying, well, I didn't like that review, so I'm going to write a retaliatory review type thing. So they keep them both hidden. But after 14 days, or when both of you are left to review, whichever comes first, they're visible. Well, if you anticipate a bad review and someone leaves you one, then one of the things you can do is just simply not leave them a review, or leave them a review at the last minute. So you can wait that 14 days so that the idea is that other people will come and stay that will give you better reviews. And then by the time that 2-week period is up, perhaps you've built up some good reviews and that one kind of gets buried because they don't get posted. In other words, when someone looks at your listing, and again, I'm speaking on Airbnb specifically, but on that platform, reviews are listed not chronologically by when they were left, but chronologically by stay. So if somebody leaves you a bad review, for example, but then you have 3 other people stay, well, you may have 3 other reviews that now bury that one before it ever shows up because you waited the 14 days. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things that we do, but that's something that's hard to do manually because now I have to remember, because I may probably want to leave them a review. There's probably something mutual about the experience, right?
Sure.
And
there usually is.
And so, if you're doing it manually now, I've got to kind of set a timer or set a reminder on my calendar or something. You'll get reminded by the platform too, but I want to wait till the very last second.
That's a really good nugget right there.
Before I leave a review. And then, the flip side of that as well is sometimes a guest, if they did something and they did something and they knew they did something and they will a lot of times just not leave a review, hoping you don't leave one of them either.
Yeah, a lot of times that does happen.
So if you leave a review, you don't really want them to have a chance to say, oh crap, I guess I'll go leave my review because I know those were going to be bad, right? So you want to wait till so when they get that notification that says somebody left your review, well, too bad, it's too late for you to leave one in response, in retaliation.
Right.
So that's a trick too.
Yeah, that's a really good nugget right there. I like that. So let's talk about how we automate. Maybe I should rephrase that because we should talk about how you automate messaging because I don't have anything to do with this.
Yeah, so we set up, we use a popular program a lot of people use. It's called smartbnb.io.
Ooh, I do know that. smartbnb.io.
Yes, and what it does is it integrates with HomeAway specifically and Airbnb. So any other channels, it's not going to talk to your clients.
So if you have a direct booking website,
then SmartBnB doesn't know about it. If I get a booking from booking.com, SmartBnB does not know about it. Now supposedly that's on the roadmap to add, but it's not there now. Okay. And there are other, softwares out there that will do similar things. For example, we use Lodgify for our direct bookings. It does have a rudimentary messaging system, but the reason I like SmartBnB so much is because it's so customizable and there are so many different things you can do with it that you might not think about initially. For example, that 14-day period that I was just mentioning, SmartBnB has a functionality for me to go in there, go ahead and write my review, save it, and then mark it as a quote bad review, and SmartBnB will automatically wait until 13 days, 59 minutes, 30 seconds, or whatever.
Gosh, that is genius.
Before it actually publishes it for me.
I love it.
So if that happens to be, on a day I'm doing something else, I don't have to remember. It's going to automatically happen, and it's going to automatically delay it for me. So that's just one example. Something else that we do. I know a lot of people have saved templates for this very reason, that aren't using automated messaging. And what they'll do is, and you did this in the beginning too, right? Like you would get a reservation and you had a copy paste thing you could put in there.
Yep.
Because you basically say the same stuff every time.
Yep.
It's like, hey, thanks for your reservation. Our address is this. Please park in front of the house.
Right.
The door code is going to be this, right?
Yep.
But then we implemented, hey, our door codes are different every time. And so now your little copy paste message, you have to change that. And then, if you want to address them by name, you have to fill in their name. Well, SmartBnB will let you do that by inserting what they call smart codes, but they're variables basically. So it will say, when I write my message out in SmartBnB as a saved template, it will say, hello, guest name, and SmartBnB knows to insert whatever their name is in there for me. And it knows when their check-in and checkout times are, so it can
How does it know that?
Those in there for me because it is directly attached to Airbnb and HomeAway.
How's it directly attached?
Well, it's through something called an API, which is Application Programming Interface. But all that really means is that their computers can talk to Airbnb's computers.
Gotcha.
And you log in with your account. So you tell it, hey, I'm Wynde, here's my account login information. And so when you get a reservation on Airbnb, immediately SmartBnB knows about it.
That is so cool.
And then it uses that same mechanism to actually post the messages for you.
So you can save templates on Smart B&B.
Yes, that are triggered by events like an inquiry or like a new reservation or like the day after they're one day into their reservation, send them a message at 9 a.m. You can do things like that. I can say, 18 hours before checkout time, because it knows when that is, send them the checkout instructions. I can have it do things like, this is a really cool one. I can have it, if the previous night is vacant, so if they book on a Tuesday it can know that, hey, Monday isn't booked, then it will automatically offer them an early check-in for a fee.
Whoa.
But if Monday is booked, it won't offer them the early check-in for a fee.
That is so cool. And that's all automated?
Yes. So that's all things that you can program into Smart B&B that you don't get in a Lodgify or something like that, where it's so much more rudimentary, because it doesn't necessarily know things like that, or even just have that functionality. So yes, we pay for a Smart B&B, but because it automatically asks my guests every single time, hey, would you like an early check-in if one is available? Or check this out, if they're coming to the end of their reservation and Smart B&B can see that, hey, the day after they leave is vacant, why don't we offer them an extra day at a discount? But if that day isn't available, don't offer them the discount. And so it's going to ask every time.
That is so freaking cool.
Yeah. So it's automated, but it's also consistent, because if you're trying to do it yourself, you might not remember to ask every time.
Sure.
And plus you got to spend the time to go look at your calendar. Is the previous day still vacant?
Right.
Right. When I send them the, check-in door code or whatever. And so it ends up actually making you money over time, even though it is something that we pay a monthly subscription for.
Yeah, and
it's even kind of cheap. I can't remember exactly what the pricing is, but it's something like $15 a month.
I was going to say, I think it's like 13,
and then
14, 15
And then there's something they add on for each property. But so it's worth it. That's all I'm saying.
Totally. I mean, the time that it saves you alone is worth it.
Yes, but then the being able to insert things like that are revenue centers.
Yes.
Like early check-ins and late checkouts.
That is so cool.
Being able to it knows so we set our door codes, for example, to the last 4 digits of a person's phone number. Well, because it's hooked to the platform, it knows their phone number. And so it can automatically tell them, hey, your door code is going to be this.
Yeah. So that was another thing that we were going to talk about.
Okay.
So that was on the list.
So let's move right into that one then.
Yeah. So that one goes naturally into this one, but we were just going to tell people that we changed the door codes in between guests.
Yeah, and we didn't at first.
Yeah,
it was the same. First of all, we didn't have a really good way to do it. Yes, we had an electronic keypad, but it wasn't smart. In other words, you have to go in there and take the back off of it and press a button,
right? And
then you can program a new code. Well, that's a hassle for one thing.
Well, you have to physically be there to do that.
And you have to physically be there to do it, which we could have in the basement. We just chose not to.
Right.
When you don't have a good mechanism to do something, you tend not to be able to follow the process. And so what we were taught and what we realized was, hey, that's a security risk. Because if your passcode is the same for every guest, then what's to keep a guest 3 stays ago from just telling their friend, hey, here's the passcode.
Right.
Go right on in. And wonder if you have a guest staying there. Now, how's that going to look, when somebody walks in their front door with the code?
Oh, man, I cannot imagine.
Not to mention somebody might come steal your stuff or whatever. It's a security risk, as much so, really, as having a key, or maybe even more so.
Yeah, right?
That's why we don't use keys, because keys can be copied.
Yep. Keys
right.
Can
So
be
I would not feel comfortable staying in a place where how many previous people have had access to the key.
Yeah.
Right. Would you really feel secure locking that door knowing anybody could have made a copy of it?
Nope.
And so it's for that reason that hotels don't even have keys anymore. They use those key cards that expire. And so you kind of want to duplicate that kind of security. And the way we do it is by changing the door codes every guest. And we set it for our purposes, one, because like I said, Smart B&B knows what their telephone number is, so I can use that number as a door code. And 2, it's a friendly number for them, So it's easy for them to remember, and it makes them feel personalized.
Sure. Yeah.
So my door code is the last 4 digits of my phone number. Now I feel like this is special to me. I know that it's probably not a door code everybody has. It makes me feel more secure, and it's good for us too, for the automation, and it provides security for us.
We just had a guest say, "Whoa, the door code is the same as my phone number." Like, whoa, it's meant to be.
Yeah. That's basically what they said. There's like, this place must have meant to be, because it just so happens that the door code is the last 4 digits of my phone number.
Oh my God.
What do you respond to that?
I know, right? What do you say to that?
You're like, oh my God, no way.
It really is meant to be, honey.
Because most people figure it out.
Oh, bless her heart. It was just funny.
But it was
humorous.
kind of funny, yeah.
It was humorous.
It's the only time that's ever happened that I know of.
I got a chuckle out of that. But anyway,
But yeah, that's why we do it. And part of our system is that we don't use like that door lock that we had in the basement. We use one that we can change over the internet. So it's easy for us to change in between guests. So that's the door code thing. We change it in between guests. And for God's sakes, don't use a lockbox.
Right, please. Okay. The next thing was using automated pricing software. So this one is huge for people. I think that the pricing is so hard to do.
Yeah, pricing is the hardest part.
It is the hardest part,
I'm always surprised
in this business.
I'm always surprised at people that say, well, I don't want to spend the money on that. Or, just like the messaging software, they're like, well, why do I want to buy this extra thing when I can just save templates? And
you're talking about
do it automatically.
The pricing software.
The pricing software is very similar. There are a lot of people who are like, well, I'll just do it manually. And I've had people tell me I don't trust the pricing software. In fact, there's somebody out there that's kind of big that teaches don't use pricing software. They do it manually, and maybe that actually works for their market. I don't know. But I can tell you that you're gonna have a hard time scaling, and you're gonna have a hard time capturing as much revenue as possible if you're doing it all manually. Because for us, every single day is priced a little differently. And part of the reason for that is...
And that's called dynamic pricing.
It's dynamic pricing. So obviously your weekends usually, for most markets, are higher than your weekdays. Mm-hmm. But how much higher should they be? And should every weekend be the same price? Probably not. Like, for example...
No, Oprah just came to town.
Oprah was in town this weekend.
I got to see Oprah, and it was amazing.
When you went to see Oprah?
We got free tickets. One of my friends couldn't go, and her friend said, here, have this other ticket, and she invited me, and it was so great. It's the Oprah 2020 Vision Tour.
Right. And we actually had 2 of our units that were occupied by people that we know of, that were occupied by people going to that.
Right. And so we knew.
And it's January, right? So it's going to be, January is a slow month for us. If you didn't know Oprah was coming, maybe you're not an Oprah fan, you wouldn't even know to set that price higher, right?
Yeah, and you would have left money on the table.
You would have left money on the table that you need in January.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
For that weekend. So, but something like automated pricing software will catch that. And the way it catches it is it's monitoring the market and certain number of searches, how many places are available for rent, how quickly are they going, at what price, and that sort of thing. And it's intelligently going to start raising your prices on higher demand days. And conversely, it's going to lower your prices on lower demand days. And you can set things like, hey, close in days, I just want to get them rented.
Like close in days, you mean
like tomorrow. If tomorrow isn't rented, it's probably my lowest price day. Because after tomorrow expires,
you can't get it back.
I can't sell it again. We're selling time. So when time expires, it has a shelf life. And so you can never get that money back. So I would have been better off renting it for $5 than renting it for nothing.
Sure.
as an extreme example. Probably not, because what kind of client are you going to get at $5?
Well, the moral of the story in January is don't lose money.
Yeah. I mean, that's the idea. So even if you are only breaking even, you're better to break even than to lose money.
And to lose money, for sure.
And pricing software can help you do that, because if you're doing it manually, then you really need to be going in there every day and making sure that tomorrow's price is break even.
Right. Because
your chances of renting it right now are lower than they were a week ago.
So what's the name of the pricing software that we use?
We use two, actually. And I recommend both of them. One of them I like over the other for reasons that it integrates with our other systems better. But the other one, I like the interface better. So the one I like the interface better is called Wheelhouse. And I found it's not available everywhere either. Its coverage isn't as wide as Price Labs. But if you have availability to Wheelhouse, it has a really slick interface. It's really intuitive, at least for me, and it does a really good job. And all you really do is you hook it to your Airbnb account, for example, or wherever, and it will then adjust prices for you. You give it some seeds. You give it here's my base price. Here's my minimum. You can even put a maximum in there. I'm not sure why you would do that, but you can put at least a minimum, which is usually our break even, and then a base price, which is what it's going to price around. So it's going to take that base price and either price it higher or discount it lower, depending on demand and other factors.
Oh, you just dropped another nugget, and I picked up on it.
Oh, what was it?
You said base price.
Yes.
So this is another really good nugget that if you don't know your numbers, then how do you know if you're breaking even or not?
Yeah, well, base price is, there's two now. There's break even price, and then there's a base price. Those are two different things. Break even ends up, it calls it what's my minimum. So it will never price below that number. But as my minimum, what I'm telling you is I put my break even price in there per night. And you're right. If you don't know your numbers, if you don't know your expenses, then you don't know what break even is. So you don't really know what to put in there. And you're going to either overestimate it or you're going to underestimate it.
We need to do an entire podcast on...
We probably should, on pricing software.
Just on pricing software.
And I'll just mention the other one that I really like a lot is called Price Labs. And its interface isn't as intuitive in my opinion, but it actually ends up being cheaper. And it does just as good a job, and it integrates with other systems like our direct booking website. We can have it do the pricing for it as well. So I like it for that reason. But it's, either one will get you where you want to go. And you just need to be using it and learn how to use it and learn how to do revenue management using software.
And that is one of the really cool things that we're talking about at thecashflowcouple.com within the community, and it's part of the content.
Right, because that kind of goes beyond a podcast. There's so much I could say about it.
You
Wynde's
really
going to have
need
to cut me off.
It's already been like 28 minutes.
Yeah.
And we still have one more thing to say.
Right. So that I could do more of a specific training on that and show you much more about it. And that's part of the reason we want to create that community, because we can only say so much on a podcast.
I know.
We can only put so much in a book.
Right.
And then you have questions and how do I answer them? And then you have, people can message you, I guess, but then nobody else gets to hear the answer or somebody else didn't ask.
Exactly.
So that's why we're doing that. You're right, because there's so much more I could say about pricing software.
Yeah. And you really need to, at least for me, because I'm a visual type of learner, if I could see it, then I would be able to understand it better.
Yes.
Like if I could see you, going through it and how to set it up and how you use it and
why. Why do you do certain things? I think that would be really helpful.
It really would. It really would.
For example, I just said, hey, don't do manual pricing, but I can tell you that within these automated tools, you still need to go in on a regular basis and do manual things to them.
Yeah, we do that.
So it's some of both, but it can take a big workload off of you. As far as automate, but you can't, it's really not a just set it and forget it thing. You really do have to go in there and work with the tools. It's a tool. So that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Let's move on real quick because it's already been 30 minutes. Let's talk about monitoring security cameras as guests check in.
Yeah, so that's just one of our things that we do. So I think we've talked about the fact that, hey, you should have external security cameras, and we believe you should use the actual security system that ties everything together. But on this particular point, part of our standard operating procedure is for check-in, we verify guests. And what that means is when they show up, we look at the reservation and say, hey, does this match who was supposed to be coming? So, for example, if it's listed as 2 people and 2 children and 6 adults show up instead, then it may be an indication that, hey, there's something going on here. And it may be an indication of, like, for example, we charge extra guest fees. Not everybody does. We choose to because we want to be able to price lower for somebody that's only bringing 2 people versus somebody that's actually bringing 6 because they use more. They use more linens. They use more everything. And it allows us to be more competitive for people that only bring 2, just for an example. So we charge an extra guest fee for everybody over 2. Well, some people will book it for 2 and show up with 6. And now they're actually using those extra services priced for 2 people.
But we wouldn't even know about it.
But you wouldn't know about it if you didn't verify your guests as they check in. So we think that's important, not only to make sure that we're getting paid appropriately, but to make sure that it's a security thing too.
Sure.
You know, did 10 guys show up with
a keg of beer,
kegs, right? That might indicate there's going to be a problem.
You think?
And you can head it off before it happens.
Right.
Because I think a lot of these things that you see that happens, one, they didn't have cameras, or if they did, they're not monitoring them. They're not, and I'm not saying spy on your guests the whole time. That's not what the cameras are for. The cameras are for verification. They are for security overall. But that's one of the most important things that we found to do is actually make sure everybody gets checked in, and do they fit the description of who's supposed to be there.
Right.
And that will head off a lot of problems. So that's one thing just in particular that we do with our cameras.
Yep. Good stuff. Well, if you found some value in this podcast, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. You can email us. Oh, wait, we have an outro. I forget. I don't have to do that anymore.
That's right. You were about to tell people where they can reach us.
Right. Sure
you just went right into it too. Well, you could talk about the community again. Just don't go to the cashflowcouple.com. I think we talk about that on the outro as well, but maybe we should change that. But thecashflowcouple.com, we've recently changed it up a little bit to feature that community that you can join absolutely free again for a month. I'm not sure why not everybody in the world.
I know, right? My goodness, we would love to have everybody. I mean, how great would it be to have a community of people who are interested in starting and growing a short-term rental business, and we could all discuss best practices, tips, tricks, successes, failures.
And without all the noise that's on these free groups that are, it's not, there's all sorts of Facebook groups you can go to, but nobody knows each other, and you don't know whether you're getting good information or not.
Right.
And some people are running like a beach house, and some people are doing, and they're like, yeah, we've been on Airbnb 10 years. Well, we've been renting out one room. Well, that doesn't really apply to my business. I've got multiple locations across Charlotte, and I've got people coming from all over the world, and I can't greet all of my guests.
Right.
We're running a business here. So it's just a different thing, but you don't know who's who and what everybody's doing. And so I think this is going to be a really good thing of value. And we're going to do some trainings like this specifically that are longer, that you can get your questions answers and all that kind of thing. So
good stuff. So go check it out, thecashflowcouple.com, and we will check you next time.
Thanks for listening to another exciting episode of the Cash Flow Couple. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, virtually anywhere you might find a podcast, whatever podcast player you're listening on now. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. It helps other people find us. It helps us move up in the rankings. If you did not know, we also have a YouTube channel. It's The Cash Flow Couple. All of our episodes go there. But as well, we also put other video content that is not part of the podcast. You can find us on Facebook at The Cash Flow Couple. We go live there quite a bit. We share tips, tricks, things that are behind the scenes in our business that you may not see on the podcast, but it's definitely more of a real-time, day-to-day type experience. So definitely follow us on Facebook. If you want to ask us questions or if you have concerns or something you want to hear on the podcast, hit us up by email, info@thecashflowcouple.com. We love to hear from our audience. We really care about you guys. We want to see you succeed, and we want to hear what you have to say. So hit us up, info@thecashflowcouple.com. So until next time, happy hosting, happy investing, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Cash Flow Couple.